Hello, everyone. My name is David, and I'm a student currently exploring the art of storytelling. Today, I'm excited to share with you a special story that's close to my heart. It's about life, time, and the lessons we can learn when we least expect them. As a student, I've often felt the pressure of time, balancing classes, deadlines, and personal challenges. This story, The Journey of a Broken Clock, resonated with me because it reminds us that even when we feel stuck or broken, there's always a way to move forward. So sit back, relax, and join me on this journey. Let's discover together how an old silent clock can teach us the most valuable lessons about life and the beauty of second chances. The Journey of a Broken Clock. Introduction. In a quaint little town surrounded by rolling green hills, there was a hidden treasure, an antique shop known only to a few locals. It was called Timeless Treasures, and it was run by an elderly gentleman named Mr. Warden. He had been running the shop for decades, always wearing a warm smile beneath his thick white beard. His glasses rested just on the tip of his nose, and his eyes twinkled with knowledge of the countless items that filled the store. The shop was filled with old clocks of all shapes and sizes. Some ticked loudly, others whispered softly, and some, like the old grandfather clock sitting in the corner, were silent. This clock, unlike the others, had been broken for years. The hands were frozen in time, and it hadn't made a sound in decades. But for some reason, it stood proudly, commanding attention with its weathered beauty. Most customers walked by it without giving it much thought, but one rainy afternoon, a young woman named Emma walked into the shop. She had just moved to the town, looking for a fresh start after losing her job in the city and ending a long-term relationship. She wasn't sure what she was hoping to find, but the comfort of the old shop seemed to calm her restless mind. As she wandered through the aisles of antique furniture, Emma's eyes landed on the grandfather clock. She was drawn to it immediately, though she wasn't sure why. There was something mysterious about it, something that spoke to her in a way she didn't fully understand. Mr. Warden noticed her fascination and approached with a knowing smile. "Ah, the old clock," he said, his voice gentle but filled with depth. "It doesn't work, you know. It hasn't for years." Emma nodded, but she couldn't help but feel a connection. "Why does it still sit here, then?" Mr. Warden chuckled softly. "It's more than just a clock. It's a reminder that time, much like life, can be broken, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable." The beginning of the journey. Despite the clock's silence, Emma found herself unable to leave it behind. There was something about it that made her feel like she had to take it with her. Maybe it was the thought of owning something that had been forgotten for so long, or perhaps it was the mystery that surrounded it. She felt like the clock might help her understand something about her own life, which seemed to be at a standstill. After some hesitation, Emma made up her mind and bought the clock. Mr. Warden packed it carefully, giving her one last look before she left. "I hope it brings you what you're looking for," he said softly. When Emma got home and placed the clock in her living room, she sat on the couch, staring at it. The room felt quiet, almost too quiet. She couldn't help but wonder why she was so drawn to something so broken. She spent the next few days checking the clock, half expecting it to start ticking on its own, but nothing happened. It remained still. Her life felt much the same. Each day felt like a repeat of the last, with no clear direction forward. She missed the excitement of city life, the fast pace, the sense of purpose she had once had. Now, here she was, in a small town with no job and no clear plans. She had been stuck in the past, unsure of how to move forward. But something about the clock, its silence, spoke to her. It was as if it was waiting for her to notice something, to learn something. The turning point. One evening, Emma sat on the couch after yet another disappointing day. She felt lost, like time was slipping through her fingers. She stared at the clock, frustrated. "Why won't you work?" she whispered aloud. "Why can't I seem to get things together?" Just as she was about to get up and walk away, something unexpected happened. The clock's hands, which had been frozen in place for so long, began to move. Slowly at first, the second hand twitched, then the minute hand shifted slightly. Emma gasped and stepped back, not believing what she was seeing. She stood still for a moment, watching the clock as it slowly began to tick once again. Her heart raced as she sat down, transfixed by the movement. The sound of the ticking was gentle but distinct, a rhythmic reminder of time moving forward. At that moment, something clicked inside Emma. The clock wasn't just a broken object, it was a reflection of her own life. She had been frozen in time, holding on to the past, afraid of moving forward. But now, as the clock ticked again, she realized that it was never too late to start anew. The challenge. In the days that followed, Emma started to see her life in a new light. She stopped obsessing over her past failures and began to focus on what she could still change. She started writing again, something she had abandoned when life became too overwhelming. She also began exploring new hobbies and meeting people in the town. But the road to change was not easy. There were moments when Emma doubted herself, when the fear of failure crept in. She would stand in front of the clock, listening to its ticking, and wonder if she was making the right choices. She had applied for jobs in the town but had not received any responses. Every rejection felt like a reminder that time was slipping away, and she hadn't made the right decisions yet. One night, she sat at her desk, staring at a rejection letter in her hands. She felt the weight of the failure pressing down on her. She wanted to give up. But the clock, with its steady ticking, reminded her that time was still moving. She still had time to figure things out. Emma closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She decided to keep going, no matter how long it took. The climax. Weeks later, Emma received a phone call. It was a job offer, a position at a small publishing company she had applied to weeks ago. The company had been impressed with her writing samples, and they wanted to meet with her. Emma felt a rush of excitement and anxiety. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for, but it also meant stepping out of her comfort zone once again. The day of the interview arrived, and Emma stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her clothes. She felt nervous, unsure of herself. But then, she remembered the clock. She thought of the way it had moved again after being broken for so long, and how it had taught her that time doesn't wait for anyone. She took a deep breath, smiled at her reflection, and walked out the door. The interview went better than she had expected. She spoke about her passion for writing, her experiences, and how she had come to embrace the changes in her life. The hiring manager was impressed with her story, especially the way she had turned her struggles into opportunities for growth. A week later, Emma received an email. She had been hired. Her new journey had begun. The resolution. Months later, Emma sat in her new office, looking out over the town. She had found her footing again. The job was challenging, but it brought her joy. She had made new friends, reconnected with old ones, and found a sense of purpose in her work. The grandfather clock, still sitting in the corner of her office, ticked steadily. It no longer seemed broken. Its hands moved in perfect harmony with time. Emma smiled as she looked at it, remembering the lessons it had taught her. Time wasn't something to fear. It wasn't something that could be controlled. Time was a journey, one step at a time, and it was up to her to make the most of it. Conclusion. Emma had learned to embrace the present and let go of the past. The clock, once silent and broken, had shown her that time could be healed, just like her own life. As she stood up from her desk, she looked at the clock one last time, a deep sense of gratitude filling her heart. Time had given her another chance, and she was finally ready to make the most of it. Moral of the story. This story reminds us that no matter how broken we may feel, there is always the possibility for renewal and growth. Time moves forward, whether we're ready or not, and it's up to us to embrace each moment and use it to create something meaningful. Thank you so much for listening to the journey of a broken clock. I hope this story has inspired you as much as it inspired me. Life can be challenging at times, but remember, just like the clock in the story, we all have the power to move forward and create a brighter future. If you enjoyed this story and found its message meaningful, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps me to continue creating content like this. And if you'd like to hear more stories that inspire, motivate, and help us learn valuable life lessons, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any updates. Feel free to share this video with your friends and family. It might be just the thing they need to hear today. And let me know in the comments, what lesson did you take away from this story? Thank you again for being part of this journey with me. Until next time, take care and keep moving forward.